This is how you control your Quad Cortex to change tones, turn effects on and off, control noise gates, and much more via MIDI. Most modern artists, just like myself when playing live, use these tricks to make sure that everything is consistent every single night and we can just change effects without needing to tap dance on a pedal board. I use Reaper for live shows because it's super easy to program the MIDI changes in, but this process that you're about to see applies to any DAW basically. When you're programming MIDI, what you're doing is you're basically telling your computer to send a message to your Quad Cortex at an exact moment in time in your session to do a certain action. And every single message and action that you can send to the Quad Cortex from your computer can be found in the Quad Cortex manual, where you can find a list of reserved MIDI messages that all have a unique function. There's two different ways that we can send USB messages to the Quad Cortex, either direct via USB with the cable that comes included with the Quad Cortex that plugs into the back of the Quad Cortex straight into your computer, or you can use a MIDI DIN cable which will plug into the back of your interface. In my case, I'm using a Focusrite, and then I would plug back into the MIDI port of the QC. For this video, I'm going to use the USB cable that comes with the Quad Cortex, but it doesn't matter whether you use the USB or the MIDI cable. The process of setting it up is exactly the same. Literally, the only thing that changes is which cable the MIDI messages get sent through. That's all. And the way that we program is actually super simple. So let's jump into my live Reaper session where I'll show you how easy it is to set all of that up. So this is the live Reaper session that we use every single time we play. And as you can see, I have all my songs loaded with all the different tempos and stuff like that. So first song, Arrhythmia. Second song is the new one, Pulse, Grey, and then Black. So basically it's all the backing tracks and all the synths and stuff, plus the click. We're getting all of that in our ears. And now our job in this video is to make a MIDI item and put messages in it to be sent out to the Quad Cortex to make sure that at every single major point in this song, when there needs to be a tone change, or when I need to mute everything, or when I need the tuner to pop up, in line with these backing tracks, in line with this click, we can set that. So the first thing that we need to do is go to preferences, go to MIDI items, and actually make sure that the Quad Cortex that we're using is plugged in and enabled. So once you've plugged it in via USB, it'll pop up under a MIDI device here, both in the MIDI in and MIDI out section. Now we are trying to send messages out to the Quad Cortex, so making sure that it's enabled on the MIDI out of the Quad Cortex is pretty important. And I've got clock enabled as well. What clock means is that whatever BPM is in the DAW at that current moment in time, it then sends that to the Quad Cortex. So if I have a delay or something and it's synced up to like the BPM, it's synced up to the BPM that's coming from the computer, which is actually really handy. If you have songs that change BPMs a lot, instead of having one universal BPM across an entire preset, you can tell the computer to send the BPM to the Quad Cortex and it will match up really nicely. So making sure they're enabled, super easy. We'll click OK. And then what we need to do is make a new track that will put the MIDI on. So insert a new track. I'll just dump it down here. I'm going to call it MIDI. I'm going to make the color of it yellow so it's nice and easy to see. Cool. We've got our MIDI track, and now we need to make sure that whatever we put on this MIDI track actually gets sent to the Quad Cortex. So to do that in Reaper, if I click this little routing button here for the sends and receives, you can see that on the MIDI hardware output, it is currently selected as no output. If I click this drop down box, the MIDI Quad Cortex out should be there because we enabled it just then. That's where you'd find it. We click on it, close it, happy days, it's popping up as a MIDI item. So now what we need to do is actually make a MIDI item and put messages in it to be sent out to the Quad Cortex. So highlighting whatever area you want to highlight. So I'm just going to basically highlight the entire first song. I'm going to highlight over that section, click this MIDI track to make sure that we're on that track. And then I'll just go insert new MIDI item. Beautiful. So now this is an empty MIDI item ready to be input with messages to be sent out to the Quad Cortex. And we can find those MIDI messages on the Quad Cortex manual. And as you can see here, there's a bunch of reserved values that all do a different thing. So if you want to turn the tuner on and off, it's value 45. If you want to turn the looper on, it's value 48. If you want to hit the foot switch on foot switch B, it's 36 or whatever. Every single message that you can send to the Quad Cortex is on this manual in the incoming MIDI reserve CC list, and I highly recommend checking it out because there's so much you can do on here. So the first MIDI message that we're going to set up, the first example is going to be to tell the Quad Cortex to switch to preset A to put it on the Arrhythmia preset. Now in my Quad Cortex, as you can see, if I hit preset A, that is the Arrhythmia preset. That is the first song in this session. So whether for some reason, if I am on an empty preset, if I'm on preset E or something like that, if I hit play on this session, it should change to arrhythmia. That's what I want it to do. It should change to this one right here. So the way that we can do that is if we're in preset mode, which we are up here, I can go to the reserve list and find out, you know, what's foot switch A. Foot switch A is value 35. So at the very beginning of this MIDI item, it wouldn't make much sense to put it in the middle, right? If I double click here, it will add that function right there in the song, which makes no sense because we need it before the song even starts. So let's do it right at the beginning, right? We can click add here, and then on this type drop down box, we'll go to CC 35 and we can hit add, right? So now what I've basically told the Quad Cortex to do is as soon as it passes that point in the playlist, which is at this point in the very, very start, even if it's on a random preset, which I'll just change it to now, if I hit play, it changes to arrhythmia, right? If I mute this so it doesn't send that message and I change it to another preset again and hit play, nothing happens. It still stays in that preset. So that's a good sign. That means the MIDI is actually working. Another thing is, like, say I wanted to flip up the tuner right before the song starts so I can quickly check if my guitar's in tune, because I'm nuts. And even though I tuned it with an Evertune, I still want to find out if it's in tune or not. So we can find that function here, CC value 45, values 0 and 127. So say, like, you know, half a bar into this song, I can click that point there, hit add, and then CC value 45 at 127, and then say, you know, it'll be a short tuning session for the example of this video, like right here just after it, we'll turn it off again. So again, CC 45, and we'll put it to 0 to turn it off, right? If I hit this again, what it's going to do is it's going to change presets to arrhythmia. It's going to turn the tuner on, and then it's going to turn the tuner off. Yep, tuner on and then tuner off. Sweet. So again, super simple example. Something a little bit more practical that I would use in an actual live scenario is changing scenes. So as you can see on my Quad Cortex here, if I switch to scene mode, not save, scene, you can see that, you know, different scenes trigger different effects and stuff like that, and certain things are turned on certain scenes. You know, whether it's a lead tone, rhythm tone, maybe the delay turns on, maybe an EQ turns on for some lo-fi stuff, whatever it is, each scene has their own little tone going on. And the way that we actually program that in the Quad Cortex, just in case you don't know, super simple. Say like I want to turn this pitch effects block off for scene B. You can do this on any single knob, any single parameter on the Quad Cortex. Basically, if you hold down this, so say I want to turn off the block, if I hold down that power button, you can see those 4 little dots popped up right next to it. If I go to scene B and then close it and disable the pitch block section, but go back to scene A, as you can see, it's back on. And you can do that with anything. Like, for say, for whatever reason, if I wanted the pitch mix to be 100% on scene A, then when I go to scene B, we'll turn it back on, but I want the mix down to like 33%, I can do that. Because I held that value and because I can change it, I can, you know, change all of these on every single scene separately, and it's all going to have a different value, right? That's how you actually program different effects and different parameters within select scenes in a preset in the Quad Cortex, and then it's up to you to program that with the computer to make sure that you're switching to the right scene. So for me, I like to set up my scene so that, you know, it's in line with the song. So if the first thing in this song is a clean tone, that's scene A. If the scene right after that is the heavy tone, that's scene B. If the tone after that is some sort of lead tone, that's scene C. So everything follows nice and it's all in order, and it's just easier for me to keep in track of. And just in case something goes wrong, God forbid, I can just hit the scene changes in order with my feet in case the computer's not working or something, and it should all line up. So say at this point, right where the song kicks in, right there, say I wanted to change to a heavy tone, right? So say scene A was our clean tone and scene B was our heavy tone. What I can do is, again, I can open this up here. I already know it's value 43. CC 43, value 0 to 7 is scene select A to H. So that would mean that scene A is 0, scene B is 1, scene C is 2, scene D is 3, etc., all the way up to scene H being 7. Again, click at this point, add a function here, CC value 43, and then in the value thing, it was from 0 to 7, right? So I wanted to change to scene B, which would be value 1. And as you can see, I've accidentally added it twice. I'm actually going to keep that in the video just so you guys can see it. I'm going to delete one of them. It shouldn't make a difference, but it's nice to keep things neat and tidy. So if I go back here, you can see that the preset will switch to scene B as it passes this point. Right now. And as you can see on the Quad Cortex, it switched scenes and some effects got triggered and stuff like that. So that's how you set up the scene changes within each preset. And it's up to you to determine, you know, what scenes you want, what tones to be on and stuff like that. But that's essentially it, really. Obviously, there's a bunch of more different things that you can do. I'm actually being pretty conservative with the MIDI changes in our set. I don't do the tuner. I don't open and close gig view. I'm not running any loopers or anything like that. It's very much just change to the preset and change scenes within the preset. That's it. So yeah, hopefully this was a pretty quick and easy guide on how to set up MIDI to run to your Quad Cortex and make sure that when you're playing your songs live, everything matches up to the exact point that you want things to change and everything runs nice and consistently when you play live. Neural DSP are the sponsors of this video very fittingly. So massive thanks to you guys for sponsoring and massive thanks to every single one of you for watching. But until next time, I'll catch you guys later. Thank you so much for watching. Ciao.